Welcome back to the Pro Sports Podcasters on YouTube. My name is Gilbert Durand, and today I want to look at what I would put together for Week 1 of the 2022 NFL season as a roster for OTM Rumble. What I've done here is I've actually selected the roster I would go with if the season started next week. Okay, these would be my guys. These would be the moments I would select to have in that particular roster. And because we're talking about football today, I also want to stress that our most recent episode on the Pro Sports Podcasters podcast has Dr. Edwin Porras on it, and he's one of the top medical sort of analysts when it comes to injuries in sports. Okay, so he's going to give us an entire rundown on 5 running backs that I selected, all coming back from injury this season, and how he expects them to fare in this coming season. And one of his picks has already happened, okay? It's already taken place. I'm not going to say what it was. You're going to have to listen to the episode, but seriously, it's one worth listening to if you're a fantasy football fan. Now, getting into the OTM Rumble Week 1 roster, what I've done here is I've looked at not only the top players that should show out that particular week, but also which players are facing the best situations, the weakest defenses, come into the season on a high or have something to prove. This is what I looked at. And keep in mind with OTM Rumble, you don't have to set the roster have it locked until 1 p.m. on Sunday. So the Thursday night games will have happened. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've listed a couple of players here that you want to have kind of at the ready in case they have a big game Thursday night. And the Thursday night game is the LA Rams versus the Buffalo Bills. So I've got Cooper Kupp, wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, wide receiver, Matt Stafford, quarterback. Those are kind of like the big three, okay? So if any of those players have a huge game Thursday night, you can immediately slot them in if you have a rare version of their moment and make them your hero to get that additional 25% bonus. So those three you kind of want to have at the ready, but if I had to actually lock my roster before Thursday night, they wouldn't be in it. So that's that additional kind of twitch that you can do in order to give yourself the best advantage going into Week 1 is have them at the ready. But outside of that, looking at Week 1, I'm going to go from top down. I'm going to begin with the quarterback, and that's Russell Wilson. And a lot of you are going to say, Cobe, you're a huge fan of the Denver Broncos. You're also a big fan of the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, you're a fan of Russell Wilson. There's probably some bias there, but this is not the case. The reason I'm picking Russell Wilson is because not only do they play Monday night, so he's got additional days of preparation, but they're playing against his former team. They're playing against the Seattle Seahawks, which he knows like the back of his hand. He's going to know all their defensive looks. You're sure they're going to throw something new at him because it's Russell, but how many new looks can you throw that he's not going to pick up on? He's going to be ready. On top of that, Seattle has just gotten weaker and weaker and weaker as this offseason has progressed. It began with the loss of Russell Wilson, but then on top of that, they've also lost Bobby Wagner, which is the heart of the defense, and now they've lost Carlos Dunlap. So the defense has gotten significantly weaker as well. They also lost their top cornerback in DJ Reed to the New York Jets. So they've got nothing left. Russell should have a day. And because of that, I've also got a running back as a Denver Bronco. I got Javonte Williams as my top running back pick. And I've got a wide receiver as a Denver Bronco, Cortland Sutton. So that Broncos-Seahawks game is one that I'd be going all in on if I was going to be setting up my roster for OTM Rumble, say, tomorrow. Okay? Those would be 3 guys I expect to have big nights because they've got the additional preparation. They will have had enough time to really get in sync with Russell in the playbook. And they're against a defense that's just lost all of its star players pretty much. So, come on. It's an obvious one to me, and that's why I would select them for my roster. My other running back roster goes to Derrick Henry. First of all, it's Derrick Henry, right? He's one of the most physically gifted running backs in the league. And in this case, not only that, but the Texans face the Giants. And the Giants aren't your toughest opponent right now. They've made a couple of key additions on defense, but what they really did was try and shore up the offensive line and help out Danny Dimes on offense. So Derrick Henry should just rip through that defensive line and have a big day. It would not surprise me if Derrick Henry goes over 100 yards in Week 1. And keep in mind, the Titans also lost A.J. Brown in the offseason, so Derrick Henry is the offense. He's it. You know, there was a splash of A.J. Brown previous to this, but with him gone now, Derrick Henry's the man. So I expect him to have a big day, and that's why I chose him as my additional running back. My additional wide receiver, I went with Michael Pittman Jr. And again, first of all, he's going to be the number one target for Matt Ryan for the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Ryan's a significant upgrade over Carson Wentz, in my opinion, in this offseason, and Michael Pittman Jr. had a great season with Carson Wentz even. And on top of that, they face the Texans, okay? They're going against the Texans. And the Texans suck, let's be honest. The Texans are in full rebuild mode. Everything is rebuilding when it comes to the Texans. So I expect the Colts to dominate. It's a significantly better team, and Michael Pittman's probably going to find himself with the ball in his hands in the end zone a couple of times. So that's why I went with Michael Pittman. Then at tight end, I've got Mark Andrews, and it's simple. Mark Andrews is, to me, the top target for Lamar Jackson. They lost Marquise Brown in the offseason, so some of that target share is going to go to Mark Andrews. Yes, the Ravens should be a run-first offense, but because of that, you're going to see stacked boxes and open room across the middle for Mark Andrews, and Lamar Jackson has the athleticism to avoid those blitzes and rushes coming from a stacked box and find him the ball. So I like Mark Andrews. That's why I chose him as my tight end in week 1. Well, the flex, I decided to go with wide receiver, and I went with Deebo Samuel. And again, the 49ers are facing the Bears. The Bears lost their top defensive rusher in Khalil Mack. He's gone. He's a Los Angeles Charger now. So Deebo Samuel will be utilized in so many different ways. They utilize him in the backfield. They sometimes use him as a running back. They always hit him across the middle on quick slants, quick outs. As a wide receiver in the slot, they use him out wide to go deep. Deebo Samuel should have himself a day. Now, it's going to be the first game with Trey Lance probably at quarterback, so there's a little bit of risk there, but generally, new quarterbacks look for their top target, and that's Deebo Samuel. So you got to figure Samuel and Kittle probably will have a good day. Kittle was my other tight end choice, but I figured Mark Andrews is going to get the lion's share. Then at defense, I went with the Colts. And again, stacked defense, one of the best in the league by far. They're going to be playing with a lead, so they get to tee off on probably, Mills all day. The Texans don't have much of an offense put together right now. Cooks is the man as far as that goes. The Colts should just dominate. So the Colts is my defense. And that's what my week 1 roster would look like. Okay, so I'm looking at the different matchups. I'm looking at which strong teams are facing which weak teams, right? Which players have the most breakout potential, or which players should have the most opportunity. So opportunity is running backs for sure. Javonte Williams and Derrick Henry should get the lion's share of the carries at running back, and they should be playing with leads most of the time. Breakout potential, you've got Russell Wilson, who could just potentially go off against his former team. You got Mark Andrews, who quite literally should get probably 75% of the target share. And the Colts could have the biggest game of all defenses because they're against the Texans, and the Texans are in full rebuild mode. So you've got a lot of opportunity here. This is what I would go with. Of course, you've got the Thursday night substitutes, right? If Kupp or Diggs or Stafford has a massive game, you go ahead, you stick them in, you make them your hero. Now, if they don't, and I have to select a hero here, my hero, it's either going to be Russell Wilson or Cortland Sutton. Those would be the two I'd be looking at. I'd be going all in on that Denver versus Seattle game. Let me know who you'd select. Let me know what your first week 1 lineup might look like. Give me some options in the comments, or someone I may have missed that you think is going to go off in week 1. Until next time.